Hey everyone, Regal Reviews here. It is White Rice Wednesday, and it is the premiere of Survivor David versus Goliath. Basically, alphas versus underdogs. I am definitely excited for the season. I have my David buff here. Yeah, it was quite the emotional premiere. I mean, emotions are still running high, and I had tears running down my face, actually. It was probably one of the most epic season premieres I've ever seen in Survivor. So let's get started. They all come on a boat, and right away Angelina looks at her tribe and she thinks, those cards are stacked in their favor, and looks at the David tribe coming, and she thinks everything's gonna go Goliath's way basically the whole time. And they're basically talking about, Jeff's having to talk about their different backgrounds on the boat, like how Nick's family grew up poor. Allison is a doctor. Pat's family lived paycheck to paycheck. So you're really getting like a glimpse of it's not really about the work ethic between David and Goliath. It's more about their start and how they got there, and their backstory is what makes them a David versus a Goliath. So right away, there's a challenge right off the bat. It doesn't have that usual on the boat getting fruit and everything. Like they usually throw fruit off the boat. It's right away a challenge. The Goliaths are going to be put at an advantage. They have to choose two people from the David tribe who they believe is the weakest. They choose Lyrsa and Christian. At the same time, the Goliaths have to choose who they think their strongest people are. They pick Allison and Johnny Mundo. So what they basically do then is the Davids then have their own sort of advantage. They get to choose which path in the challenge they take and which paths the Goliaths take. So basically, the challenge started out with you had to go either on a two-person bridge on this net or on a beam. Then the second part of the challenge, you had to go through a rope. I think a rope tunnel and a crawl net. I don't remember. I didn't write down what the last thing was. And the last part of the challenge, you had to do a 15-piece cube puzzle, an 8-piece slide puzzle, or they had to just basically lift 30 sandbags from here. So the Davids chose that they would do the two-person bridge, the crawl under, and the 8-piece slide puzzle, and they chose that the Goliaths would do the plank bridge and the 15-piece cube puzzle. And the Davids sold that puzzle lickety-split. Like, they won rewards, so they have a shelter kit. I usually go by in order what happens in the episode, but I'm basically, since it's the premiere, I'm going to basically just sum up the whole tribes right now, since it's basically the introduction, and then I'll go back to my usual format in the next video. So, the Goliath tribe, yeah, they're have a challenge less, but it doesn't really seem to affect them that much. They're all kind of introducing each other. They recognize Mike right away as a writer, and at the same time, everybody's all eyes on Dan. I mean, have you seen him? Even Natalie herself said that he's fine. Apparently, they must not watch Survivor, because right away, Dan gets into a showmance with Kara. He says, basically how she's a pretty girl, and he feels so connected to her, and vice versa, Kara feels connected. So I'm like, oh my god, seriously. Like, showmances is what ruins people's games, so but they did have a point. Some people have fell in love on Survivor. Look at Boston Rob and Amber, and look at I believe Whitney and what was his name? Help me out, guys. South Pacific, it was Ozzy, Jim Rice, and who was the other guy? Comment down below if you remember that. But, yeah, they're basically, everything's going good, except it's not all rainbows and unicorns over there. Apparently some people are already rubbing people the wrong way. And apparently like I mentioned, Goliath, I don't think has watched Survivor, because Mike right away puts a target on his back because he goes right out to look for an idol when everybody's building a shelter. I'm like, dude, it's like not even 10 minutes in the episode and you're already going to look for an idol. I mean, even Natalie was right. I mean, you already put a target on your back. And I have a feeling there's going to be tension between Natalia and Natalie, because Natalia can't stand Natalie because she's, in her opinion, like barking orders and complaining all the time. Natalie doesn't seem to have anything going against Natalia right now. But, I mean, Natalia has a point. I mean, some people could look at Natalie and say, oh, she's not really doing anything. But I really think Natalia's putting a bigger target on her back, because she's the one more vocal about how she doesn't like Natalie and like complaining about it. And I feel like right now that's going to put a target on her back, because nobody wants to hear that around camp right now. So, and then we have John, who is the professional wrestler. I don't watch wrestling myself, but he explained how he plays he's known as these different names for himself, but he's out here, he's going to play as John. He's going to play for him. And Allison and Angelina have a talk at the water well, saying that not enough girls have found idols on Survivor, and I agree. Usually the guys are very quick to find idols. So Allison and Angelina proceed to go find an idol, and it looked like to me at first that Allison was going to look and Angelina was looking. I'm like, Angelina, don't fall for it. I mean, I get they might have an alliance going, but you don't let somebody go and look for an idol. So then Mike is starting to go and look again, hoping he doesn't get caught. So then everybody, you know, eventually gets the idea everybody's going to look for an idol. So then everybody's looking for an idol. And you start to hear that music like somebody's about to find one. I'm like watching carefully, like, oh my god, like nobody's found one. And then sure enough, Dan says, I don't know why they're all looking, because I've got the idol right in my pants. I'm like, is he just joking or what? And sure enough, Dan has the idol. And it's a first, because nobody saw him find the idol. And then it shows after the fact how he found the idol. And apparently Kara and Natalia know he has an idol, because Dan told them, like, again, strike 3, you don't tell people you have an idol. I don't care how close you are in the game. Do not tell people you have an idol, because they can use that against Dan later. But congrats, Dan, for finding the first immunity idol this season. Wow, that's amazing. And Dan's amazing. I mean, hello. So on the David tribe, you know, everything's going good. They're all working together really well to put up a shelter. And the one person that gets off on the wrong foot is Pat. People think that the opposite of what they thought of Natalie. They think that Pat is too bossy, even though he's doing a really good job building a shelter. So I would think they'd be a little bit more grateful the fact that they're getting a shelter up there and somebody knows how to build a shelter really well. And they're all forming alliances, it seems like. On the Goliath tribe, it wasn't exactly clear who was in an alliance. Only Dan, Kara, and Natalia. But on the David tribe, there was Jessica, Bai, and Carl. And Carl thinks it's good to side with Jessica because he reminds her of his daughter, and he thinks in his mind that he can mold her into what he thinks will get him to win the game. And Carl and Davy seem to hit it off, but they don't want everybody to know that they're in an alliance. Lursa and Elizabeth seem like they're going to be in an alliance, and because Lursa said that she thinks she can trust Elizabeth the most, and they think that they'll be the most, nobody would suspect them to be in an alliance. And speaking of showmances, Gabby and Christian might have their own thing going on. I don't think it'll be as obvious as Dan and Kara, but it seems like they're, I don't know about showmance, but it seems like they're going to be in a really good alliance. Like, they have a lot in common, and it looks like they'll be able to work really well together. The rain is torture out there. I can't imagine already being out there on an island and having to deal with all that rain. They all hope that Goliath is suffering out there. And Nick then wants to also get in the game and make alliances. He talks to Christian, and then Nick and Elizabeth talk to each other. So it looks like Nick's off to a good start. He also wants to name alliances. That made me think right away of how Philip used to give his alliance members special nicknames. So I'm wondering exactly what Nick's going to nickname the alliances. Right now, there's thoroughbreds out in the air. And it got emotional at one point because they all got really personal, and usually that's a bold move to talk about your personal life on Survivor because they could potentially use that as a reason to vote you off. And it just seemed like they were all connected. Like, Jessica was talking about how she was abused and her mom was abused by a boyfriend. And the girls all were comforting her and everything, and just talking with each other. It just seemed like they're real, like, wow, this tribe is, like, really connecting. Like, I felt like the women are warriors out there. And then Nick sees everybody talking, and doesn't want to approach anybody right now. He feels a little bit like he wants to hide his personal stuff, to keep his personal stuff to himself. But then he gets the courage to tell his tribe about his mom, I guess, dying of that his mom did drugs, and I guess it's implied that she died because of possible drug overdose. Yeah, so it was really sad, and the tribe just really came together. It was really nice to see the tribal unity going on there. So, the immunity challenge, before I get to the immunity challenge, it was really epic at one point after all that, heartwarming and love stuff, that Davey actually found an octopus. He found a freaking octopus. Like, it was just really cute to see how enthused he was about finding an octopus. So, the immunity challenge, they had to, let me look at my notes here because there was, again, a lot going on in these challenges this time. They had to sprint through this obstacle, and they had to crawl. They had to have somebody dig in the sand to get a machete, and the machete would release this ladder, and the person who got there first would give the second team a disadvantage, and that would be that they have to untie knots to release the ladder. And, they'd get across, and they have to solve this number puzzle, and it looked like Goliaths were winning, and then they were lacking because Carl was taking forever in the sand digging. But then it was a showdown between Allison and Christian being the puzzle callers, and they were doing great. They were like neck and neck for a while, and it only came down to a few puzzle pieces, and it actually ended up being Goliath that won the first immunity challenge. So, congrats, Goliath. Better luck next time, Davids. So, I'm watching, expecting, there'd be some talk about tribal council, like who's gonna go home. I'm trying to think who might go home. I thought they might target Lursa at first. Possibly Christian. I don't know. I honestly don't know who they would target at this point. I thought maybe Pat because he was, I guess, quote unquote bossy around camp, but all of a sudden you see the white boat. I'm like, oh my god, something happened. Like, what happened? And sure enough, Pat was injured, not in the challenge, but on the way back to camp. Apparently a wave knocked the boat, and they heard something crack, and they thought Pat just, they weren't exactly sure what happened to Pat. They thought maybe he just bumped his back or something, but he was seriously injured. Like, the doctors have him on a stretcher, they're all checking him out, and he's in so much pain. Like, I feel so bad for my guts and the heart are just sinking right now. I mean, it's not like other injuries we've seen. I've seen one person like sprained a finger before, and they were able to, well, actually that person was evacuated, but this one looked super serious. Like, when I saw him on the beach there, I'm like, yeah, they're probably I'm 99% sure they're going to pull him from the game, because he's in that much pain, and the fact that it might be his back, I mean, you don't know how much damage that wave could have done. And sure enough, they do pull Pat from the game, and it's so sad. Like, regardless if you didn't like Pat or not, whether you were a fan of him or not, it's just no way to go. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. You're out there to win the title of Sole Survivor, and it's the more honorable way to get voted off, but then to get taken out of the game of medevac on the first day. Like, I mean, you've heard people like getting voted off first, but it was so horrible. Like, he just kept saying, don't take me out, don't take me out, and they had to, and some of the tribe members feel guilty because they thought he was bossy, but really he was like the heart and soul of the tribe. I mean, that whole tribe, like, he seemed like the leader, and that whole tribe has a shelter because of Pat. So it's so sad, but this is what Davids have to go through on a daily basis. We always have to go, underdogs always have to jump over hurdles and overcome adversity. So Pat wouldn't want them sulking around. He'd want them to just keep moving forward and win the game. So because Pat was medevaced, there is no tribal council. So the previews for next week's show, that Christian looks like he's going to be the new leader of the David tribe, and it seems like Lursa might be a potential target next week. And also on the Goliath tribe, it seems like Natalie's going to be a target because, well, I guess Natalia doesn't like Natalie or whatever. So yeah, epic and completely emotional first episode of Survivor David versus Goliath. I have a feeling this is going to be one epic season. I'm really surprised they found an idol on the first day, and now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they have any food around camp. So did they go back to the rice, the whole having rice thing? Because I know a lot of people were complaining that they had too many advantages, and they had like so much food out there the first time to go. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But something really got me that Jeff said at the beginning of the episode that I forgot to mention. He said on the boat that David's advantages are often invisible, whereas Goliath's is visible, because usually Goliath's are, their advantages are like by the way they look and everything. They could get by in life just by their looks, where the Davids have to work 10 times harder just to function in life. Well, I shouldn't say function, but to get through life. And people really underestimate the Davids about what they're capable of. So, yeah, I'm really excited. So, feel free to comment down below. Enjoy your comments. I'm definitely looking forward to next week's Survivor. If you guys want to check out Survivor, it is on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. on CBS. Until next time, stay regal.